My name is Amy. I am a Kamilaroi woman. I grew up in between Mildura, Perth, and Melbourne, and I'm currently studying medicine at the University of Melbourne. I was motivated to study medicine simply for the fact that I just wanted to help people in a way that felt really natural to me, and something to do with healthcare was, just a natural kind of pull towards that kind of career, and medicine seemed the best way that I could do it. My pathway into medicine was a long one. I did a Bachelor of Biomedical Science, and then I did an honours year and did some research, and I tried to get into medicine from that point forward. It took me a little while. And so in between, I worked as a research assistant in a laboratory, and then I did a PhD. After the PhD, I applied for medicine again, and then I finally got into medicine. Yeah, so I have a lot of support, both at the university and external to the university. At the University of Melbourne, I'm really lucky that I'm supported through Murray Barak as a whole, like from the university level. But then I've also got specific supports within the School of Medicine as well. So we've got First Nation lecturers. We also have like a First Nations administrator who kind of helps all of the First Nations students with all of the really admin type stuff. And we've got a dedicated First Nations health teaching team as well that are a really good point of call. The student committee for the medical school, the student society for the medical school, also has 2 First Nations officers that represent students and can advocate for students if issues arise. And so externally to the university, I've got a really strong family support system, which really helps in medicine because it's quite a tough course. So I rely quite heavily on them, and yeah, just having really strong friendships both inside and outside of medicine to kind of get that balance in life. I find medicine very challenging in general, but the most challenging aspects of it actually don't come from the content, but more so the demand of the course. So the expectation of the medical student is that you're to be available pretty much around the clock, which makes it really hard to work and to have a really solid work-life balance or study-life balance. So I remember when I was in first year of medicine, I really struggled with that transition to the intensity of the course, having to do all the lectures plus additional study outside the lectures, having tutorials at 6 o'clock at night. It was all quite tough to adjust my life to that. But, after making some adjustments and getting into a bit of a rhythm, now I find that the hardest part is that I can't work alongside medicine, so therefore finances become more of an issue and a challenge. I love so many things about studying medicine. So my top 2 things of studying medicine are the people in medicine. I found them so welcoming and open, and really not what I expected from medical students if I were to stereotype them. And then secondly is the patients and just the hospital environment in general, being privileged to be a part of a patient's journey and to help them when they're feeling most vulnerable in the hospital setting, or helping a family member understand a diagnosis because the doctors are too busy to sit down for 15 minutes to explain. You're in a really privileged position as a medical student to fill that void between the doctors and the patients, and to really change the patient experience. Studying medicine has made me a more patient and understanding person. I have really come to again, be privileged to be a part of so many patients' journeys and to learn their stories, and to, you know, see how the things that we go through in our lives take us down a particular road and lead us on a particular path, and how that can be reflected in health. So yeah, I feel like I've become a more understanding person in my general life. Look, if you're Mob and you want to study medicine, I say go for it, because you can definitely do it. And you know, we're all here, and you know, we need more. um, we need more doctors who are Mob, and we need a presence in the hospital. But I would say that it's probably not a decision to be taken lightly. It's a really tough course. There's no denying that. And you need to have, you know, some support systems in place, and, you know, mentally be prepared for the challenges that lie ahead. But that is definitely not to deter. I strongly encourage you to apply. My goal for the future is to finish med school and to potentially get on pediatric training program. I've just come off a pediatric term and was surprised with how much I loved it. And working with, you know, little kids really brought a lot of joy to my life. So I am looking forward to finally finishing studying after many years and getting into the workforce and going down the training pathway.
My name's Ella Ceolin. I was born and raised in Meanjin in Brisbane, but I'm currently living on Dalrymple country in Rockhampton. My family on my mother's side are Irriganji Dabagai, from far north Queensland, that's the Cairns and Townsville areas. And then on my father's side, we're also Italian, and his family comes from the north of Italy. At the moment, I'm studying medicine at the University of Queensland. So I'm in my fourth and final year, and I'm doing placement in Rockhampton. Medicine wasn't something that I actually considered for myself until very late in high school. I always thought that I was going to be a teacher because most people in my family were teachers. I always liked science, so I thought I was going to be a biology teacher. I just thought that made sense. I always think about the quote which says, you know, you don't believe you can be what you don't see. And I think that's so true, because like I never thought I could be a doctor. No one in my family was a doctor, and I didn't know any doctors. Everyone in my family was a teacher, and I thought, yeah, you know, I'll be a teacher. It wasn't until I think it was year 11 I went on a Indigenous health science camp, which was based out of the University of Queensland. And on the camp we talked about you know, medicine and what it means to be a Indigenous doctor and what it means for Indigenous peoples. And we also talked a lot about the pathways into medicine and, you know, just how to become a doctor. And that really, I guess, opened my eyes to me about medicine. And, you know, I came away from that camp with the goal that maybe I would try and pursue medicine. I graduated high school. I got a OP9, which I think is like an ATAR 81. So it definitely wasn't good enough to get into medicine like straight out of high school. So I opted for like a graduate entry. So I had to do an undergrad degree first, which at UQ you would do anyway because it's a postgraduate course. But I did a Bachelor of Science with an extended major in biomedical science. And so that was a 3-year degree at UQ. And from there, I applied to the UQ Medical School through the alternative entry pathway. And I was fortunate enough to get in through there. And now I'm 7 years on since finishing high school, and I'm in my final year at UQ. A personal level, my biggest support would have been my family. But I guess specifically talking about uni, one of the biggest supports would have definitely been the Indigenous Studies unit at UQ, but all unis have a version of it. So we call it the Access unit at UQ. And, you know, we like to joke that it's our home away from home. Yes, it is a physical space on campus, which we say, you know, it's culturally safe and whatnot, but it's also the, you know, the network and the community that it provides to you as well, the other students, but also the staff members who really are family, and they'll look out for you and they support you. And then more so in the academic sense as well, like, you know, the tutorials that they can provide and financial assistance, academic advice. So definitely a big one was the Indigenous unit. Another one was definitely the Australian Indigenous Doctors Association, or AIDA. And I guess because the Indigenous unit at UQ was general for university, but medicine's very specific, very niche, especially, you know, pathways out of medicine and beyond medical school. And that was where certainly AIDA was able to facilitate a lot of introduction and connections. You know, it's a national network, made a lot of valuable connections through them and can provide more specific support. One of the biggest challenges about studying medicine is that it comes with a lot of personal sacrifices, and, you know, that can be in a lot of different forms. For me, it was definitely having to sacrifice family and friend time, because my family is very important to me. But and while I do pride myself on trying to get a really good work-life balance, studying medicine is a significant commitment, and so I definitely had to make sacrifices for that, which, you know, meant that I might have had to miss birthdays or miss events or miss going places simply because I needed to study or I had an exam coming up. And so it's a lot of those, you know, small sacrifices that you have to make, which I don't like making, but I had to do anyways. And I guess, you know, financial sacrifices as well, especially because, you know, you could be going out and working, but instead you're paying to study. And so it's definitely a financial sacrifice to choose to study as well. In terms of what things I love about medicine, well, I guess that I think it's a really awesome way to give back to your community. So I mentioned earlier that I always really liked science, and I just thought that, you know, being a doctor is a way that you can combine a love for science with a love of giving back to community. I think that we as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, you know, being the oldest living cultures in the world, we're also the oldest living healers. And I think that being a doctor is like the modern translation of that, how we can sort of continue on that practice. And I think just being able to be an Indigenous doctor and serve Indigenous peoples is an immense privilege. Any Indigenous person thinking about studying medicine, I would honestly just say go for it. I would say don't hold yourself back, because I truly believe that anyone can be a doctor. And I mean that in the sense that I've seen great doctors and I've also seen bad doctors. So honestly, anyone can be a doctor. I think a lot of people are held back by this idea that, you know, you have to have really good grades in high school and be always super dedicated to your studies and whatnot. And I don't think that's true at all. I think that that is a barrier that people perceive, which isn't true. It's being a doctor is about how passionate you are and how hard you're willing to work to achieve your goal. It doesn't matter, you know, how hard you worked in high school or what your OP or ATAR was. It matters, you know, right here and now, you know, how bad do you want it and how hard are you willing to work. I think that, you know, we definitely need more Indigenous doctors in Australia, because we know that Indigenous peoples want to be treated by Indigenous health practitioners. I think that we play such a key role in closing the gap in health outcomes, and I think that for any Indigenous person wanting to pursue medicine, I think just do it. Give it a shot. Yeah. Goals and ambitions for the future are definitely short term. So at this point, I just want to finish med school. I'm so keen to graduate. My nieces and nephews have this joke that when I do graduate, I will be upgraded from Auntie Ella to Auntie Doctor. And I think that that's literally all the motivation I need. I'm looking forward to being out of med school so I can like relax on the study and focus more on, you know, what it means to really be a doctor and how to be a really good doctor.
I'm from Ceolin, Western Australia, and I'm currently studying at the University of Melbourne. What motivated me to study medicine probably was having tried a few different things in the past. I found that medicine was a good avenue to sort of help people. And, you know, be quite involved with the community. So my pathway into medicine was quite long. Having, first of all, I did TAFE to get into university. From there, I did some sort of legal studies and didn't do so bad. So, that sort of got me into anatomy. And then now here I am in medicine. I think the best support systems to have when you're studying to have a group and to sort of come together to overcome any of the issues that might arise when you're studying. It can be very busy and very stressful, and it's a good way to sort of debrief at the end of every day and keep up to date with your peers as well. In saying that, I caught up with some sort of distant relatives in Tasmania, which was nice. But as for, in the community, I mean, I've been involved with a new community sort of lately. It's a shame I never really got involved too much with the, Dad's community, where he's from. And my uncles are quite involved. But anyway, I got a job through Varcho as a sort of medical cadet. And so I've become quite involved, I suppose, with the Aotearoa community. And just out in Echuca, so that's been great. How's that benefited me in medicine? I mean, the Varcho job has been quite handy in sort of allowing me to integrate, sort of medical studies and helping those in the community. So I suppose that's been good, yeah. But what do I find challenging about studying medicine? I'd say the time commitment. It is significant. And it's not particularly easy. Yeah. However, I think, with a good support group, you can overcome it, and it very much is temporary. So I think what I love about studying medicine is the opportunities that it brings. And along with the opportunity to really use a valuable skill, particularly within the community, to essentially help people. So I think it's very valuable. It's very rewarding, and more so as you sort of go on through the course. I don't think that medicine has changed my perspective, but I think it sort of reaffirmed my commitment to helping people, and really, sort of cemented that. I'd say that medicine hasn't necessarily changed my perspective, but it's allowed me to sort of really understand that I do enjoy helping people, and it sort of cemented that regardless of where I sort of end up in life, I want to be constructive, I suppose, and an active participant, in the community. My goals and ambitions for the future would be to remain an active part of the community, and in fact, probably to do that would be to go down the road of some sort of general practice or dermatology. But